Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. Today I'm interviewing somebody who I have been asked to interview by members of the audience many times, and finally in my heavy schedule I've managed to secure an interview with this very fine gentleman. He is waiting in the wings, as it were. I asked him, how shall I bring you on? What shall I say about you? Now, a lot of people would probably know his name. Some people won't. I know he's been around for a while. He's been on the road without his number plates. He's been promoting sovereignty and the free man of the land sort of thing. But I think he has a lot more to say. He is a radical spiritualist, he tells me. He is Peter of England. Peter, welcome to the show.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Richard. Thank you.
It's lovely to have you here. We've not met before, and I've heard a lot about you, and so it's a privilege to have you on the show. I know from the preamble conversation that we've had before we started recording, you're intending to be somewhat controversial, which will be great. As long as it doesn't get me banned from YouTube, then I'm all for it.
Okay. No, I assure that my self-discipline has been created in the fire of controversy with the YouTube adjudicators. I have had quite a lot of videos taken down, and so I know the rules of the road. As long as we don't mention the C word, that's probably the only thing these days that still gets you taken off there, or your video made unavailable. So today, as a general statement, I'd like to say you can ask me as many questions as you feel suited to make. We haven't scripted this. We are winging it. I want to be as controversial as I possibly can today. And why I want to be as controversial is I listened to one of your interviews from some months back, and I think that was an interview with a chap that I really do admire and love listening to his monograms on GB News, and that's Neil Oliver. And one of the things he said, in part, is that he wasn't a controversial type of character, and he didn't have a slick bone in his body. I disagree with the fact he's not got a slick bone, but if he wants to stick by his statement of being controversial, what I thought to do today is to be a little bit controversial.
Please do.
And why I want to be controversial is really to sort of piece together like a master tailor, a bespoke tailor, a Schneider, someone in the fashion of haute couture. I want to try and put together for the viewers today, the viewers of your channel, a lot of the points that people are seemingly missing about their worldview. And the worldview that they have is to a great extent being gifted to them by their parents, their grandparents, their teachers in schools and universities, and the general public acceptance of what's called norms. And in a great extent, a lot of that has come through because it's been engineered, should we say. I don't really have much of a faith in government generally. No matter what it tends to get involved in, tends to lead to a negation of the freedoms and the creativity of man. The word government comes from two words, really. One, gouverne, either from a French or a Latin derivation, which means to govern or control, and the men on the end, gouvernement, comes from the word mensa or men or mind, which basically therefore means to govern the mind or to control. So your government, in effect, is there to control your mind, to control your viewpoint. And so today, what I'd like to do is to look at some of these aspects of where we are at the moment. And really, we can't worry about the past. We can't change it. The only moment of creative power spiritually that people have is the now. And it's no good projecting our fears into the future by saying what's going to happen or what could happen. because that also stymies us. So what I want to try and do is put together a suit of clothes together today from the aspects of general world view and what most of the populations would say is a normal view, by being reasonably controversial. I'm going to stop in about a minute, and then I'm going to give you a chance to ask me a
It's all
question.
right. No, you carry on.
But some of the points I would like to address to people now are things that, you know, people say, oh, well, we don't really know, and the media put together this pastiche of both sides. Maybe it's this and maybe it's that. It's not really. There are truths out there, the self-evident truths of, like, for example, the Vedas, or from the Bhagavad Gita, the Shruti, self-evident truths. But a lot of the knowledge is esoteric, has been hidden by the people who want to control and make themselves special. And special, by definition, is special. It has to defend itself as being different. And anything that is different is always open to attack, obviously, by that which is not the same. So this is why you have the elites who are obsessed with protecting themselves from everything else. And this phenomenon of the specialness is really what you look out of your window today, or look at the TV or any news, and you see those are the elites. Whether it's Charles, whether it is Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, the Trump family, the Bidens, these puppets in places to make sure that, under a Machiavellian doctrine, that when there is trouble, that trouble comes to their door and not to the controllers behind. That's the picture that is being put forward as the reality. And most trouble on the planet emanates in the more recent history from around about 1748. And why I mentioned 1748, that's roughly around the time that the Industrial Revolution took place in England, predominantly with the invention of steam locomotion. But prior to that, for many, many, many thousands, and the Church of Rome and everyone else would have you believe it was forever, up until that point, the fastest way you could move on this planet was either on a horse or on a boat. There were no third options. From 1748, everything changed. And from 1748 to the 270 years or so from that point, we've gone from traveling at that speed to far greater speeds. As a planetary picture, this is a truth. Whether people believe it or not is irrelevant to me, but it opens people's minds to other possibilities. And that is the only way that you're going to leave this planet knowing more than you did when you arrived. The initial seeding on this planet came in at around 550 billion years ago. The Great Pyramid and the Pyramid Complex in Giza was built from the top down. In the early 60s, 1962, the covert cabal operating out of Area 51, predominantly through what's called the Skunk Works and various aeronautic industry cooperation from reverse engineering, had around 500 to 800 craft that were capable of interplanetary travel at approximately 2/3 the speed of light. And the situation that we have now through the world is that every single world leader in place, from your Putins through your Trumps to your Sunaks through Biden, are all previous incarnates from Atlantis. So the deal has been set. The history is looking to repeat itself. And with the world being on the brink of destruction, people have a unfortunate paradox to address. And I know this is turning into a bit of a monologue, but hopefully we'll have an appropriate just branch off in a moment. The problem is that everyone at the moment is in a state of reaction. The world agenda, the new world order, the Kabbalists, those who are controlling the AI, those who have been putting chemtrails in since 47, understand that a fearful population can be controlled through reaction. No longer is the horse pulling the cart, but the cart is pulling the horse. So everybody's kept in a state of constant fear, constant reaction. And the main question is, qui bono? Who benefits from this? It certainly isn't you. It is an agenda to steal the very planetary Earth from under your feet without you even realizing. And I would maintain there is a system of humanicide in place at the moment, and that is being rained down against you from every single possible side you can imagine. From the ultrasound that is engaged to destroy and create autism in fetuses at the 6, 12, 18-week periods, right the way from the nanoparticulates that are seeded into the air by the chemtrails so that no one can have a finger pointed to them of lacing either the pharmaceutical products or the foods that you eat, the enzymes and the toxicity that's been injected into the chickens, the cattle, whatever it is, the sheep that you eat as a meat eater. It comes at you from every side. So that being the case, yes, it looks pretty hopeless, but is there something that can be done? Yes, most certainly. And the way through it is to take full control of your full God-given status or status of who and what you are by realizing that mind is the controlling mechanism, not the body. The body is just a monkey suit that you have been loaned for the duration of your stay down here. The Anunnaki would probably say, those are an extraterrestrial group if people aren't too familiar with them, mentioned in the Bible, Old Testament. And so the Anunnaki would probably say that they hold the gene patent parenting rights on you. But what we have then is a separation of powers. We've got the spirituality of the mind or soul incarnated into a physical form. And so that's something that needs to be addressed. Mind over matter is predominant. The body cannot automatically or autonomously make itself ill. It is all a manufacture of mind, and the creative strength and the power of your mind is no different than that of the one of the greatest exemplars that ever walked the planet, either the Buddha or Jesus, who proved time and time again that there is no death. And so that's the predominant message. You are in a paradoxically very difficult situation at the moment. You have the WHO hunting you down. You have the state bureaucracy, the police, the judiciary, the administrative protocols, the taxation authorities, all queuing up to really hobble you and push you down into a state of oblivion. So I would sincerely advise any people that want to start to look sincerely about how we can alleviate these problems, how we can turn ourselves a little bit more into upstanding, non-fearless, creative beings who do have a power inherent to change the world, to not think that they can do it on their own, but come together in a cogent and a coherent way, and ask for help. So with the asking comes the delivering. when the unfortunate individual, the Son of Man, as a finite being, attempts, the impossible, then the infinite steps in to help make it possible. So that's the paradoxical XY axis crossover for individuals now who think, oh, well, I prayed when I was 16 and I didn't get the girlfriend I wanted, or I prayed again for something and that was not delivered. Prayer is a route, but what you need to realize is there are beings, hierarchical beings, that are allowing the protocols of this planet to be run as they are at the moment, but there is a opposing force. Some people would say the white hats, some would say benign, spiritually pro mankind extraterrestrials that are looking to help, but they can't do anything unless a call is given. And primarily why I'm mentioning this at the moment, there is more and more talk coming into the general press where it wasn't touched on before, whether that's by ABC, CNN, the BBC, more and more reports about strange phenomena in the heavens. Is there life on other planets? We're about to be destroyed by a solar wind coming in, blah, blah, blah. And this is all leading up to, I think, a disclosure, but a disclosure born of an absolute, unavoidable set of circumstances that will prevail, whereby some type of declaration or statement has to be made. So apart from that, I do have lots of opinions on other stuff. Most of the information that I'm trying to deliver does come from esoteric sources. I am part of an organization that was primarily involved in the building of the chambers, or accessing the chambers, should I say, within the Great Pyramid, and also have texts from Atlantis. And there's a little bit of a giveaway there. The entire 24 letters or 26 letters of the English alphabet are contained within a triangle which has a geometric form in the center. So an equilateral triangle like that with a geometric form in the middle creates these letters. So I'm really mentioning that just to let people know this isn't something that I've got from Time magazine or got it from research on the internet. The knowledge and depth of the spiritual truths that people need to become quite aware of, and quite quickly aware of, if they are to make any type of progress in this school of hard knocks, needs to be made now. So this is a message that I don't really cover on my videos, because I tend to look at the more practical things for people. How do I clear my mortgage? Do promissory notes work? Why is the WeReBank check not accepted as a form of payment? The questions come, the answers are, there is no rule of law. Arguably, there never has been. Now there is a full-on irrelevancy to any pretense that there is a rule of law. And that is easily looked at from the way that people like Tommy Robinson are treated, the way that things that Russell Brand did 20 years ago now are suddenly brought in as a reciprocal crime, the way that the Department of Justice and the FBI are almost to an individual all on one side, and the judges don't even profess to want to listen to the other side. So that's my introductory sort of monologue, and I'll hand that back over to you, Mr. Vobes, and you can do or ask me now whatever you want. I'll try and keep the answers short.
Well, thank you very much. There's clearly a huge number of potential questions in all of that, and I'm trying to remember all of those different things. But I'm going to throw in, and by the way, hopefully people are still watching and are thinking, hang on a minute, what was that all about? And we'll try and unpack as much of that as we can. So for the last year, I've only been sort of doing these questionings and these videos. So I'm sort of learning a hell of a lot on the way, and I hope that I'm on a spiritual journey myself now and understanding what things are. And you mentioned the mind and all of that. So let me throw at you then a question based on, if, as we are told by various scientists now, such as I think it's Brian Lipton, who says that actually, you know, if you get down to the basic thing, it's all vibration. The mind controls this vibration. We create the reality in front of us, and everything is basically a hologram. Now, if that's true, then all of what we see and experience has been made up. Now, I don't know whether it's made up individually by our own mind or as a collective mind, but when you talk about other species from different planets or the cabal or even a loved one, does any of that actually matter if it's all, at the end of the day, vibrational and it's just particles moving and your mind is creating it?
Well, it's a very astute question, but one that is asked consistently from the time that man probably first had the ability to think, and that is the question: who am I, or what am I? In effect, you are best to look at this so-called reality picture or a hologram of harmonic universe and harmonic universes, a bit like even David Icke often refers to, that this is just a holographic representation. We are lost in a type of formulation here. The self-evident truth is that everything that you look at outside you, and I dare anyone to prove me wrong on this, which therefore becomes Shruti, or as the Buddhist would say, they pass the question over to you now. Everything that you see around you is an artifact of the past. There is nothing that you can look at, nothing you can think about that has not had an emanation from the past. The chair, the camera, the tree in the garden, the fruit, the cravat you're wearing, even the teeth in your head, your body, it all has a past. Now, as the past doesn't exist and the future can never be, the main question then is, are we all playing a game in time and space? So you, Richard, the object that is sitting the closest to you, you would look at that and interact with it as being in space. That's a spatial relationship. However, anything looked at outside of a certain parameter, let's say the local shop at Tesco, or the local bargain booze, or the local off license, that's now projected into a time. How long will it take me to get there? Somebody wants to go to and visit relations in Australia from London. It's how long will it take me to get there? So there is, unfortunately, a misuse of time and space. And as Albert Einstein himself said, as persistent as time is, it is but an illusion. So the Buddhists particularly teach a very elementary and kindergarten type of way of establishing that the body does not exist, and everything outside of you does not have an existence, doesn't have a phenomenal existence from its own side. So without spending a lot of time on that, we'll just look at it and take it as read. But where that then leaves you is in a sea of frequencies. God, or the Yunase, or the Ancient of Days, as referred to in every religion or every spiritual practice on the planet, admits to a fact that it is incomprehensible. It is way beyond the scope of the concept of the ego mind, as the Buddhists would say, the conventional mind. for us to understand it. So what we tend to do, therefore, is we issue projections. We do a dissociation and a projection. We project onto God all those facets that we think, well, we would be like that if we were just bigger and more powerful. So therefore, God is bigger than us. He's got a beard. He sits somewhere. He's vengeful. He holds grudges. He doesn't speak for a while. He's a bit of a temperamental Old Testament type of decoy God. But that is anything but. You can look at various exemplars and sages who've come from the past. If we look at the Jesus example, he basically came down and said, hey, look, it can be done by you. All it takes is discipline and will to return. So just because something is simple to do doesn't mean it's easy. And very few people maintain or have the ability to drill down to an extent that they can see a reality past the reality. Many individuals, people like the pop group Doors, the Doors of Reality, they use various psychotropic stimulants, and they basically have said that they can see the light particles in the tables or particles of light moving in these alternate realities. So the best way for you to look at this is that God, or the unity consciousness, is beyond time and space. The time and space theater that has been put in place for the Son of God to realize what it really is as a creation of God, doubted itself and therefore came into time and space to find out that which it is. So only by finding out first that which it is not could it realize what it is. And this is really what the time and space game is. There are many universes, there are many holographic representations, and this information, though taught by Jesus in his more, shall we say, esoteric or secret teachings to the disciples, and then a smaller coterie within that group, they have the ability to get it, but the main thing at the moment and the global agenda is the opposite. It is to distance everyone from the belief of the possibility even that you can go back to where you came from or back to source. So everything now is taking you away. So instead of going back to unity, it's expanding. We're told the universe is expanding, rushing away from every particle at speeds almost equal to the speed of light. The agenda for diversity, the agenda for transgender differences, and every type of alternative, bizarre aspect that it is possible to imagine is presented to you to keep you moving away from going within, looking at returning to source. And the main problem on the planet really is that there is just one problem and there's one solution. The one problem is separation anxiety. The solution is very simple: unity consciousness, or forgiveness, as Jesus himself taught. So the idea is, and all the people who go, the tulkus and the mendicants, the people who go into caves in India and in Tibet, the one source of ideology they take with them there is to try and still the mind, take it away from Netflix and being brought, almost plugged into fiber full time and the internet, to go in, to be peaceful, and with that peace to establish a truth. Nobody will probably want to say that, though they would admit that their parents created the body by coming together, no parent would ever say that they're probably responsible for the mind. And as minds, even within siblings, are so diametrically opposite, the question should always be, well, where's that come from? Is that just a freak of nature? So generally speaking, I would say that this so-called illusion is an illusion, but it is a school of remembering. You must remember by the time you check out who and what you are, if only in part. Otherwise, you'll go out with the same grade in year one as in year five. And there is a possibility, though I don't want to force this on people, that they might have to come and resit again and go around again. Hence the appreciation in many religions, and which used to be taught openly up until the creed or decree of Nicaea in, I can't remember exactly when that was, 397 or 365, that there was an open teaching of reincarnation. But in truth, whether you believe in reincarnation or not, it doesn't take you much further than the present moment. So on that, hopefully I've answered that question in about, I don't know, 7 minutes.
Well, I was going to say, I'm glad and very thankful that you agreed to answer the questions very quickly in a short space of time. So, are you? There's so much that we can talk about, and time is
which we can do. Which I would like, as I say, I wanted to do a different video because mine are always between 15 and 25 minutes in length.
Yes.
I start, I finish, it's on one subject. I have to try and get a message over.
Absolutely.
Depending on what the reaction to this video is, if people want more esoteric knowledge, I will dispense it. For many times, I was actually, for many years, it was generally forbidden for these truisms to be broadcast. Never really has been in the past because we've not had things like YouTube, but people like Giordano Bruno, Copernicus, Sir Isaac Newton, Galileo, Pythagoras, Plato, Pharaoh Akhenaten, Tutmosis, these were all part of the same order that I'm associated with, and this is the gift or the teaching that I would like to try and get out. It was always my first preference. It wasn't to do checkbooks and put WeReBank together. But the one thing I've proved that I will deliver here, and that I am protected by a contract of protection, is that I have the ability to do what other people maybe don't have the courage to do, don't have the tenacity or desire to do. And so with that, I've successfully done and presented whatever I've done over the past 8 to 12 years in public. And I'm still looked on, generally speaking, by the establishment with I wouldn't say with plaudits or taps on the back, but I'm always treated very, very fairly and always have been. So I don't have any big grouse against the establishment, apart from being able to look them in the eye and understand, I know exactly what you're doing, I know exactly how you're looking to do it, and I know what the mechanisms behind your dialogues and your engineering are. So that's what we can cover next time, and let's see what people want to hear or want to drill down on, as they say.
Okay, so from what you were saying before, about the many distractions and the Netflix and all of the things and the broadening out and keeping us continually looking for new things. Are you suggesting, or would it be a sensible thing to try and get back to a more simpler life that we lead? Or is that, am I on the wrong track altogether? I admit that
you're on a very good track, Mr. Vobes. A very good track. You have the nose.
I am a bit, I'll put my hands up, and I'm happy to do that. I am a little out of my depth.
No, don't worry about it.
No, well, I'm not worried because you seem to be able to absolutely contribute as a brilliant contributor, and you know what you're talking about. And so I'm just trying to find the right sort of questions. To me, it does seem that a simpler life, and I try to lead a simpler life, albeit that I'm under LED lights and I'm on YouTube and providing content on screens for people, which in and of itself I quite abhor, and I want to get back to very simple things and being one, as you sort of mentioned. you know, to me, in an ideal world, I'd go back to being a shepherd watching a flock in a shepherd's hut, with a beard and a pipe, clay pipe, and
Yeah.
just, you know, and just be with nature.
Okay. Yeah. Um, that's very admirable. And
Is
if
that
I
escaping?
had
Is that escaping from,
no,
you know,
it's what you find in world savant uh, doctrines or practices or protocols is that virtually every monk or renunciant or sannyasin that takes on an enlightened perspective of wanting to change something, they always, without doubt, have to spend, even Jesus did, a time in reflection, in meditation, of quietness, and finding the inner voice. Every single thing on the planet goes in before it can go out. You put a seed into the garden, it first goes down to create its root structure before it can then branch out. It's the same with the mitosis reaction of the egg and the sperm when it starts to create life. So going in is the key. The problem is that the world, not the earth, the world, man's creation that seems to be out there, hasn't really been created by God as such. The power of the mind, and this is the one thing that holds people back, the power of the mind is so incredibly sophisticated and comprehensive that it is on a par with, if people will believe the things that Jesus actually preached, that the Father and him are one. Well, that didn't mean anything other than what it literally meant, that the mind of God was equal to the mind of the Son. Now, the Son didn't create the Father created the Son, but the Son coming after, in effect, created the name of, or the designation of, Father.
Right.
So the mind of you and the mind of everybody out there, without exception, is extremely powerful. And this is the one thing that the controlling agenda, the controlling elite, the extraterrestrial resistance in the background that have given very kindly all this technology to mankind since 1748, have basically done for a reason. And that is to disconnect you from a homogenetic, pastoral connection with nature. People these days in a city don't even know where the sun comes up, where the moon goes down. They've got no connection with nature or just generally with anything. So the problem is we've gone too far. We've allowed it to go too far, and so a tipping point has come. Many people speak of things like the Yugas or the Kali Yuga coming at the end of times. And I think most people looking out in the world today can see something is terribly wrong. Things are going more chaotic. And though the ego is becoming more inflamed, more tyrannous, more aggressive, more destructive, at the same time, there are patches of hope and light that are showing miraculous possibilities. So this end of days cycle that's been spoken about for I don't know, forever, especially in the 60s, where you'd see people walking down Oxford Road with a sandwich board, the end of the world is nigh. Everybody thinks the end of the world is always nigh, but now is possibly a time to be looking at it and thinking that the world structure as it's going on can't continue indefinitely. And so there is a catalyst being applied. That catalyst is there to create what's called a harvest. So a major problem that almost every commentator makes without exception, and excuse me, I don't know one, if any one of your viewers out there can mention someone who does include this. People think that everyone's the same, and the politicians and the people like Dick Cheney, Kissinger, Macron, Trudeau, Angela Merkel, that all these individuals are the same as us. They're just they've got things a bit wrong, but they're generally good meaning souls. They aren't. They're polarized. There are only two polarizations on the planet, apart from man and woman, or male, female, plus and minus electricity, maybe with a neutral core. What we've got there is we've got these individuals I've just lost my train of thought there.
Polarized people. Everyone's thoughting that it's
polarized,
the same.
Thank you very much. There's only the two polarizations: the service to self and service to other. So service to self is quite evident. That's people like the Bidens. This is people like Dianne Feinstein, Schumer, Comey at the FBI, all these people, the Clintons, Rishi Sunak, Tony Blair, Cameron, the Royals. They're all in a position where they're just hunkered down, looking after them or the immediacy of the family. Anything outside of those can go to hell. It's mainly a prison planet type of mafia, strict, hierarchical, top-down control mechanism, which is territorial and very aggressive. On the other are the service to other brigade. Most of the planet, I would say 95% to 98% are undecided. Therefore, there is a small coterie of individuals generally who are genuinely service to other. And by that, I don't mean the immediacy of the family. I mean to anyone that they can try and help. So with that, it's no good trying to change these people in positions of power. It's no good looking at the 560 Jekylls and hyenas in the Houses of Parliament. They're all there self-serving for their own good and not for the good of the people. So that's a self-evident truth. Now, you can try and jump around and think to yourself, well, yeah, if I was in that position, I'd do that as well, with the personal protective clothing scam when the C pandemic was on and all this. I'd do the same. But it doesn't matter whether you would do the same or do not the same. That isn't the way we should be going. And most people instinctively know it. Yes. So that's the position. I don't think at the moment it is possible to turn the clock back. The jelly is setting. There were times when you could still stir it and it had the consistency of water or malleability. But now the die is typically set, and for ascension cycles, and this is one of the main reasons that Area 52.life has been set up, is to prepare a safe space, a safe ground for all those who are wanting to explore the possibility that there could be higher echelon assistance available, no matter what, to defend you from the jackboot of the Gestapo, WHO, NHS in the UK, or TSA in the United States, or whatever other country you are in the world, kicking your front door in to try and take you away for some treatment. If that's something that concerns you, then do something about it, but do something about it creatively. Equally, I am able happily to offer possible medical interventions through systems of meditation for those people who might have regrets about certain potions that have been taken over the last few years, and people who have had various things there are ways of undoing some of these protocols, and it isn't by taking, green leaf tea or taking capsicum or whatever. So that can be done. That's also something that we can look at. But please go to Area 52, look under the services area, go either under medical or then down to divorce. These are the practical results of engaging the enemy with a protocol. So it's a karmic protocol. And very quickly, because I think it's worth mentioning, even though I know I'm going on a little bit, it's a bit like the command structure within, say, the mafia. The Chicago mafia in Chicago, the New York mafia in New York. They've got very, very distinct discipline and hierarchical control of what can be done. If the boss gives an instruction to one of the henchmen to go and do something and he messes it up, then that individual incurs the wrath of the boss, the Don. Also, if they do something that they shouldn't have done or were instructed not to do, then the consequences relay back up the chain of command. And that is for a very, very simple reason, that because the power of the service to self is so hierarchical, it is so reptilian brain-stemmed, that they have to have this structure. They love protocol, they love moving on signs and sigils. They like the authority that these platforms give them, and therefore it is the be-all and end-all of everything for them. So they don't like surprises, they don't want creativity, they just want it to be as it is. So that's why it's very, very important to try and look at ways of derailing it, stepping outside of it, because they cannot handle that creative input that circulates around the individual using their mind to engage. And so if an invocation is made, there is a karmic penalty as long as you believe in cause and effect. And that is a fairly easy thing to ask people to digest, that red pill. And it's obvious. Cause, effect. They rest in the same place. The problem and the solution are located in the same place. And so with that, you do have the ability to refuse. You do have the ability to invoke, for example, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, various articles. You can invoke Article 6, the right not to be recognized as a person. Almost every act of Parliament, every code within the IRS in the United States, and HMRC, the Income Taxes Act, Capital Gains Tax, on and on, all reverse or refer to person, any person. The Theft Act, 1968, Section 1, a person is guilty of theft if, with a view to gain for himself or another, he dishonestly appropriates property belonging to the other, thief and steal shall be construed accordingly. It's all person, 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 person. So Article 6, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, gives you the ability in part to step out, and there are other things that you can do. I know I've covered a lot of the stuff in my YouTube channels about escaping the trap and declaring the controversy within the trust. Yes, that's all well and good, but it's earth-based. I really do think now there is a time for a world movement of mind to remedy the problems that everybody's facing, whether it's the mortgage or whether it's other things. Ultimately, as you referred to, it's all frequencies. Does it matter in the end? Well, I can just assure you that when you're lying there on your deathbed about to take your last or gasp or exhale, you're not going to be worrying about your NatWest or HSBC mortgage. Apart from that, I don't have much of an opinion. Are you still there, Richard?
Yes. No.
So you've fallen off your stool or something?
Not at all. I'm listening to every word, as indeed every member of my audience is also listening. So the solution then, you've moved away from, although I'm not saying you've moved totally away, but in the short term, there is the sort of sovereignty, I am a man and woman, not a person. But in the broader aspect, then you're saying we need to have a much more spiritual focus, and is that not so much, as I was saying, the shepherd in the hut on his own, isolated with his own thoughts, as you say, going into the wilderness, thinking, reflecting, and then coming back, but actually joining other people into the similar thoughts, so that those thoughts can radiate into the universe and push back and prevent humanity disaster?
Yeah, perfectly described. But I don't think the human disaster, if you know or have read, and I mean you when I say if you know, I mean one. If one
Yes.
has read or researched or has had access to the right type of material, you see that the destruction of mankind and a virtual destruction of this planet has been played out many, many, many times in the past. If you think that the politic on this planet is fractious or incredibly ego-based, with everyone falling out with themselves, even within the same party, then if you extrapolate that to a hermetic principle as above, so below, then you come into a situation where it's even more crazier up there or out there than it is here. One of the major teachings, for example, within Buddhism, is the fact that there is actually nowhere to go. You don't actually, when you become enlightened or you become one with God, or when you actually go into transition or die, you don't actually leave here. You don't actually travel anywhere. There's nowhere actually to go to. And so with that precept in mind, it predicates the question that, well, what can I do for everyone else? It's a bit like being on a plane and it gets depressurized. The idea is when the oxygen mask drops down, you're supposed to look after yourself first. Most of the teachings, though, I think, particularly in Hinduism and Buddhism to an extent, the sutras, they've been slightly not misinterpreted, but diverted from the overall concept of not to become a Buddha to save everyone else from what's called samsara, the illusion of time and space. But I think that the better way is to realize that you don't go anywhere without taking your brother along with you. So the keys to the kingdom of heaven lie in his hands, because everything that you do is manifested in your mind first before you project it out. For those people who are in doubt about that, go and look at the George Clooney? There's a George Clooney film called Men Who Stare at Goats. And this was a prophetic and true experiment run by the CIA and the NSA in the 1960s or early 70s, whereby they wanted to, when the Cold War was at its height, where they wanted to prove that these people with either psychic abilities or mental powers that were a little bit stronger than average could actually terminate or control other people's minds. It was going to be useful in the SALT II agreement talks or whatever. Anyway, so the experiment took place, and the individual who was responsible for this sat in a shed and stared at a pack of goats for some time before then selecting one of the goats and pulling it to one side. And after a period of, I think it was weeks, the goat dropped down dead of a heart attack, because that was the program that he was told to use, as a lot of these secret service agencies try to have the cause of suiciding yourself due to. They thought that was the best way to go. But what they found then is, unfortunately, that some weeks after he developed coronary heart problems and died. So the idea is that everything that you first think and manifest about anyone else has to be manufactured within. And so therefore, that which you criticize or that which you condemn, do you become?
Yes.
And that's always the danger. And this is why the only way of having a protection of a sword which can't be wrestled out of your hand and then turned against you is the prophetic teaching of forgiveness. Really, if it comes down to it, that's what everyone is supposed to be doing, forgiving. The message through the world media, through the world government, the imams, the trade union movements, the teachers at school, your dad always tell you, go back and punch him in the nose if he's hit you. The shaming of people who've committed offenses against victims are brought into court and shamed. The entire menagerie of this, keep this circuit going as it's always been, is the trademark of a Luciferian satanic agenda that wants to entrap you and keep you in material poverty, slavery, and fear. And with those components in place, you ain't ever gonna go anywhere. And unfortunately, the news isn't it isn't brilliant, but it isn't the end of the road. 5,000 people meditating correctly can change the world beyond imagination within the week. And anyone who doubts that, there's a very competent spiritual teacher in the United States called Drunvalo Melchizedek. His Flower of Life series has an example in there that there was a meditation program, I think in the 80s, early 80s, and it was to be done in Chicago. This group were going to come together and make a meditation whereby they wanted to bring the crime rate and the murder rate down, which was running at God knows whatever numbers it was per day. And the chief of police in the Chicago district basically said the only thing that would lower that death rate was if there was a meter of snow, and he probably said 3 feet of snow on the ground, and that would stop it. But they went along, they did the meditation, and lo and behold, the death rate went straight the way down. So we are creating our reality as a product of the mind, and we are constantly bombarded through Apple News, the media, whatever we're grazing on, the BBC, the ITN, CNBC, etc. It's just bad news broadcast all the time. And as we see this, even the discarded cigarette packets at the side of the road from an industry that swore to us for years and years, smoking was completely harmless. There's no possibility of it giving you cancer. These same, if I had a swearing propensity, I would actually say fuckers, but I would never use that word, so I will not say it. These people are the same ones now who are putting these lovely images on packets of cigarettes so that everybody can see through a visualization of the potential damage. And as they see, so do they create. And this is the power of the mind. The other side, I truly assure you all, understand the power of the human mind and the psyche and its potential. And that's what's in the trap.
So really, everyone should chuck away their televisions, for one thing, stop watching any of this rubbish. And if you are a smoker, cover up those words so that you don't see them, so you can enjoy your whatever it is. And forgive everybody, everything.
It's a lot easier said than
well,
done.
I know. I'm wrapping up the show, you see, so because of time. But in essence, it would be great maybe to come back and do more on this. But where can people find more about what you do? You've mentioned your videos and you've mentioned Area 52 .live. Did you say or .life?
Life, LIFE. So it's
LIFE.
yeah.
I'll put that. I'll put the link in the description so people can find it, and I'll search out your YouTube channel is called.
It's removement.net. I think REMOVE. So that's www.youtube/removement.net. I think I will send that to you just to confirm.
Okay, brilliant.
Then there is WeReBank, werebank.co.uk.
Well, if you just send me a list of all the things, I can put that in the description. That would be great. So
just as my concluding words,
yes,
the main focus once more for putting the suit together and pulling the parts together to give you, if nothing else, other than a shield or a representative ideology that you can share with whoever may be trying to oppress you in whatever way you can possibly imagine that can materialize. Then Area 52.life is the showcase, is the window for going forward. It's to give you a place beyond their reach, beyond their land, beyond their control, and to give you a safety net as we go forward into whatever future you think is on its way towards you. So it's a safety net and it's a help, and miracles can happen. And why don't we all get miracle-minded? Because these things can happen, but if you think they can't, then you're right, they won't.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there we go. Peter, thank you so much for coming on. It's been fascinating to listen to your amazing amount of information which you've got in your head, and you're just at look at it. But I mean, you're just able to grasp all of this. You've obviously been studying this for a long time, and somebody like myself and excuse me, many of my audience who are perhaps coming to this for the very first time, perhaps frightened, perhaps concerned about the way the world is going, and haven't been enlightened to the whole gamut of the way that we've been controlled and brainwashed and all of that. It is amazing to listen to you. And I do urge people to find out more about your work and where they can go and all of that, which, of course, as I say, I will leave in the description. But it was a pleasure to listen to you and to understand. And there's a lot to sort of unpack there. But I'd just like to say big thank you for coming on the show and sharing it with myself and the audience.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Richard. It's a pleasure, and I hope we can build your channel, and if we do this again, that's fine. If we don't do it again, equally fine. But as you've built an amazing creation there in quite a short time, it could actually be a valiant platform, because the one thing that I do miss is not having a channel whereby I'm asked questions. Mine is always a monologue. It's a stand there, I'll deliver whatever I need to do. But I'm very hungry for the questions so that I can give answers. And I do assure everybody that these aren't answers that I've just taken from, let's say, Life magazine, Time magazine, off the internet. This is as true as you need for the job in hand.
Well, maybe in a future show, I'll ask the audience to send in some questions to pose to you, because there'll be many people who are far more advanced in their spirituality or their knowledge of world events, etc., than I am, and it would be great to put in a balance. You might have to answer those questions in a shorter space of time.
Yeah, I can.
But that would be great. Peter of England, thank you so much for coming on the show. And I hope, ladies and gentlemen, that you have enjoyed watching. I will be back, of course, with more monologues and more wonderful interviews. But in the meantime, from Peter and myself, thank you for watching. Till next time, goodbye.